tutorial to build a simple but good looking cloud. So I've chosen a color template with these three colors. This would be a highlight color, a main body color, and a shadow color. So the first thing I'll do is just create a group for my cloud, and this is the 44th cloud I'm making, so I'm gonna name it cloud 44, but for you this could be cloud 1. Then I'm just in this group going to create a new layer, and in this layer I'm going to grab the elliptical marquee tool and make a puff for the left edge, and then a couple puffs for the center top. There's no real right way to do this, but this will just be one possible configuration, and I'll just fill those in. So then I'm going to take that layer, copy it, and paste it. And now what I'm going to do is create highlights. So we want nice, I'm not sure what the word is, but nice edges where the end of the stroke is thinner than the center of the stroke. So that would be one edge. Now for this one, this is going to kind of have a little highlight that eats into the middle of the cloud, so we're gonna have that be a little bit deeper. We'll delete like that, and then here we'll just kind of delete. So now based on my color template, I'll just make these be white. So I'll eyedropper that particular color, which just is the color white. Then these guys will be the body color, which is the color E8F5F5 if you're interested. So now we have the left side and these kind of bubbles that will be part of the top of the cloud. So I'm gonna take these two elements and group them together. Then I'm going to make a new layer, and now I want to connect these top ridges here like so, and then I'm gonna add an extra poof on the right side. We'll make it a little bit oblong, and we'll just do those for now. So we'll fill those in. Then same thing, we'll copy that layer and paste that layer. And then I like to hide the fill layer while I cut these out, just to make sure I can cut them with good widths. Now it don't matter how you line up the bottom of this, it only matters how the edges that merge into those other two bubbles will be here, because they're going to be occluded. Then here, this is the edge of the highlight, so we want it to kind of terminate, assuming the light is coming from directly above and maybe a little bit to the right, be something like that. So same thing, we'll just set these to our chosen color, which is white, and these to our chosen color, which is off-white, or once again E8F5F5. So now what I'm going to do is group these two layers together, and then move our first group above that group. So you see how these kind of bubbles eat in there. It looks a little bit weird perhaps, but it's gonna look good when we're done, I promise. Now, there is one kind of nuanced step that I like to do because I want these to look absolutely perfect. So if we hide the color for that fill, we're gonna see that we get these kind of anti-aliasing lines where these edges meet, the two whites intersect. So I just kind of like to cut it out. So I go onto that layer and I'll cut out this little chunk and then this little chunk, and then I'll cut out this little chunk. Boom. And then I'll put the color back on. So now what we can do on our underneath layer, well, first of all, make sure there's no stray highlights in the middle of your cloud, obviously. So we'll get rid of that. Now we want to fill in the body a little bit more. We want some more depth to this cloud. So we're gonna add a little poof there. Then we'll go up a bit, add a couple poofs, and one more larger funky poof there. And we'll fill in those poofs. They're gonna be the same color. All right. Now we'll go ahead and make another layer, and we're gonna add some shadow. So we want the shadow to kind of dither out from the edge, the left edge of the left side. So we want to make this a little bit taller. So if we make it kind of that aspect ratio, and we don't want the shadow to intersect the highlight because that just is going to look funny. And then we just don't want the shadow going up and over. We're going to put the shadow under everything. All right, then we go ahead and we make the shadow cover the whole bottom. And it's good to get a little bit thicker in some places and a little bit thinner in other places. And then as we go to the far right, we want to get thinner. And once again, for this edge one, we want to go a bit taller so we can terminate. And then we just want to make sure, we could delete this later, but we'll just do it all in one swoop. So there, this will be our shadow. So we go ahead and fill that in. Get a little zoom out. And this is going to be our third color, which is this color. And now it looks a little bit funny, but when we move the other two layers on top, it looks like that. The final step, what we want to do is add kind of an inner bubble cut sort of thing. So we'll make one more layer on top of everything else. And what we'll do here is we'll make an oval down at the bottom. And this will be kind of like an inverse of the highlight. So we want it to be approximately the same width as the highlights. Could be a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner. It's good to have some variation. If you're going to make lots of clouds, you can keep repeating this procedure. So there we have this inner cut, which happens to not, it's going to cover properly. If it didn't, we could delete some of the content of the other layers or add some content to the fill of the body layers. So that's basically, this is your template cloud. What you can do is you can take the whole thing and give it a couple strokes. You give it one stroke centered, and I have 2 pixels, but this just this makes sure that if there's that kind of bleeding on the edges, it just gets covered up. And then one thicker stroke on the outside, and maybe I want that to be a little bit thinner. your numbers might not match mine because this is kind of, it's not a vector, but it's kind of vector-like. So there, that's basically your cartoon cloud. You can do one final trick, which is to take this whole group that, and add a shadow. So if we drop shadow, you can just obviously play with the sizes, but for some cartoons it'll look good to have this shadow. I wouldn't make it quite so dark. I'd make it a bit more faint. So there. Now if we, for example, add some sky here to the background, you can see kind of what that shadow would look like. So you've got a sky, and the sky is kind of just a good sky color, something like maybe that. You would have a cloud. So you could build mini clouds like that.